Welcome. This is Jason Bean, going with another rather, in my minimalist series. I really think that's an adorable trend. What you're looking at now is minimalist landscaping. There are a set of stickweeds in front of us, generally known as cockleburs, and the fellow that invented Velcro came up with the idea for it from these wonderful burrs. You see some here. That's them. And they don't have pricks on them. They have hooks that grab into fur and hair and clothing. And they go everywhere that you go. And then when you pull them off and throw them down, they eventually grow up into these 8 to 10 foot tall weeds and take up the landscape. The real insidious thing about these lovely things is that they have a beautiful purple blossom in the fall that attracts butterflies and bees, and that, the foliage isn't bad. It's actually kind of pretty. You can see some of the leaves here. They're just sort of small, sort of coin-shaped leaves. They get bigger in better sunlight, but their burrs are just horrible, and they're an affliction. If I were to go in here with a machete and cut these doggone things down, by the time I walked out, I would be completely covered with them. And of course, you've got to pick them off 1 to 3 at a time, and then you've got to figure out a way to get rid of them. Which, according to Dr. Rudolf Steiner, in the 1920s, when he was creating biodynamic agriculture, the best way to do that with the invasive weed is to do a burn of both the seed and the roots, and then grind and scatter the ash over the area where the plant is afflicting you, and that does work, but it's a rather time-consuming process. So I do not use herbicides, pesticides, fungicides. I do not use chemical fertilizers. These are against my principles. So that's pretty minimal. Anyway, that's one thing. Oh, beyond that, you can just make out the branches of a wonderful old true male mulberry. There's a type of tree called a male mulberry that isn't a mulberry at all, but rather an invasive exotic, I believe from Central America or South America, perhaps from Australia. They all come from someplace else. This wasn't a Asian invasion, though. That's a different thing. But this particular tree is it does blossom and have catkins that produce pollen. But these are one of the few trees that actually have male and female versions, and there is no female for which to mate with. But the thing of it is that the reason I've left it in, despite its split down the center of the trunk, is that I know when those exterior branches touch the ground, they'll begin sprouting up again, and instead of having 1 or now 2 trees, I will have probably a half a dozen or more at least. It will continue to propagate from the trunks. When the trunks connect with the ground, they will produce roots, and then it will create new trees. So I've left it in for the time being, even though it's blocking my view of the lake. I just think that would be really neat to have a little stand of male mulberries out here, even though they don't have a girl to hang around with. But that's another story. Let me move on to my minimalist heating. This is going to take a couple of seconds here, again, on the minimalist landscaping. I'm going to be kneeling down a little bit at a time. Still working with this thing. I'm going to get that off soon. That's a minimalist plant pot there. This is my minimalist heater, and it's oh gosh, I can't do that. Okay, I'll have to do it from up here. This is a radiant heat radiator style electric space heater. Okay, see the controls. Standing up again because that's killing my knees. This is a nifty little thing. I have a 1,500 square foot home, and I don't need 1,500. Somebody's calling in. I don't need heat 1,500 square feet of home for myself to stay warm on a cold night. So I use this little thing I inherited from my aunt when she passed away in 2005. It does a fine job for about 50 square feet, and I throw a little blankie over it to confine the heat to where I stay nice and cozy. It actually serves a double function because I can place Microwave resistant food trays, or aluminum or steel cans on it, covered over with a sweatshirt or a blankie, and then I have a hot meal. So it's a dual purpose. And as long as I'm careful with it, I make sure I turn it off and unplug it when I leave the house. There's no risk of fire, although people have been able to start house fires with these things, so I have to be conscientious of that. Anyway, I'm almost at 6 minutes, and I don't like to go over much more than 5. So, and again, I will speak to you soon. I'll do another minimalist thing here after a while. Bye-bye for now.